I'm Madeline Jane Auble, and this is Window Dressing, Glamour Girl Next Door, MGM to Playboy. This week I am talking about Pamela Anderson. Her story has recently re-emerged as pop culture fodder by way of sellable redemption, in large part because of the 2022 Hulu show Pam and Tommy. The unsolicited and exploitive TV show did a lot to reignite the tragedies and miscarriages of justice that she endured and continues to endure surrounding the release of her and then husband Tommy Lee's sex tape. Hulu, the show's creator, and even the actors had almost no pushback in bypassing Pamela and Tommy in the retelling of the tape's theft and the vulnerable moments it exposed. Courtney Love expressed the human cost of this purposeful oversight in a long-ago deleted tweet about the Hulu show, where she says that the whole thing is, quote, further causing Pammy complex trauma. She went on to say, and shame on Lily James, whoever the fuck she is. Courtney ended her tweet with #vile. No one gets it more than Courtney Love, who, let's not forget, publicly outed Harvey Weinstein in 2005 while attending Pamela Anderson's Comedy Central roast, in which she supported Pamela at every turn. By the way, Lily James is the actress that took the role of Pamela on the Hulu show. I have to say, I agree with Courtney. It is absolutely outlandish to think this was an okay career move, given the lack of involvement of Pamela and Tommy. But it is the show's creator, Robert Siegel, that should shoulder the majority of the ire of her fans and the industry at large. I have also personally heard he is an asshole. Pam clapped back with her own Netflix documentary, Pamela, A Love Story, produced by her son, Brandon Lee. She also released a memoir in conjunction with the doc, which she wrote without the use of a ghostwriter, because believe it or not, blondes are not dumb. Her memoir was the most recent book she wrote. The first was a fictionalized romp about her stardom called Star. The second is a follow-up to Star called Starstruck. The third and fourth are both memoir-style collections. The fourth is a photo book with handwritten excerpts from her journal called Raw. This one is very similar aesthetically and artistically to Courtney Love's memoir, Dirty Blonde. The fifth book is a self-help book she co-wrote with Rabbi Shmuley Botek, called Lust for Love, Rekindling Intimacy and Passion in Your Relationship. It's in the latter that I learned a lot about who Pamela is and how hard she fought to retain her spirit amid multiple broken hearts, a man's world, and society's obsession with porn. I highly recommend this book if you want to understand what it means to be a warrior for love the way Pamela Anderson is. The sixth book she wrote is her memoir that came out this year entitled Love, Pamela. Her status as graceful warrior grows up in this work, and she feels more fully herself. She talks about her marriages and divorces, there have been 5, but mostly she speaks about her unshakable self-love and enduring belief in romance. The thing that is so unbelievably magic about Pamela, and the real thing I think she lives and dies for, is her own soul. Her light has not gone out. This is a feat considering what men do to women and what the world throws in on top of that. So why the fuck is this self-possessed unicorn the butt of every joke? How did it happen that even in 2022 Hulu thought nothing of telling the most tragic story of her life for profit? I think it begins with her brand of beauty, a brand that shifted Playboy and therefore the location of power in culture, period, full stop. Pamela Anderson's appetite for sex is no greater or lesser than most women. Her career as a Playboy centerfold and Baywatch babe, along with her breast size and gorgeous blonde hair, made her the quintessential bimbo. She took notes from sex symbols of the 1960s like Jane Fonda as Barbarella and Brigitte Bardot as herself. Pamela's bombshell looks deviated slightly from the traditional dishy babe. Her blonde hair bared roots in a way that was not done before her, creating a beach babe category that surpassed Sharon Tate in Let's Make Waves. Her look came together slowly. The Pamela that first posed in Playboy in 1989 is not the image of Pamela Anderson that is seared into the cultural consciousness. That look was fully formed around 1995. By then, her hair was golden, like actual gold nugget gold. Her eyebrows were plucked down to suit the style of the time, but also her face. They arc along the bone of her brow, accentuating a cat-like bone structure around her green eyes. Her signature eye makeup was black liquid liner with plush black lashes and a smoky gray eye that fanned out at the edges and crease. This is a 90s does 20s look with a splash of Garbo glamour. Absolutely iconic and quintessentially harlot. Better articulated for the time as bimbo. She lined her lips in a near brown pencil very similar to the kind of brown eyeliner that Sharon Tate used to line her lips. She filled it in with a creamy champagne hue that shined like an oil slick. This look is so fucking trashy and hot, it continues to turn heads even when viewed from 30 years later. I honestly don't have the words to express how important and influential Pamela's full-tilt sex symbol feminism was and is. Sex positivity and slut-shaming would likely not be terms without her image in our mind's eye. She took back the night with a red bathing suit and a messy bun. We all owe her. I think it was assumed Pamela would fade away with age, but her staying power was underestimated. Pamela is one of those few people who is so entwined with the culture that we don't really know who we would be individually or collectively if she didn't exist. Very much in the same vein as a Jane Fonda and a Sharon Tate. Pamela's career started with Playboy and then successfully blossomed into television. This is something that had never really happened for Playmates and centerfolds before her. There was a propriety ceiling that kept nude models out of the mainstream. Dorothy Stratton may have proved to be an exception to this, had she survived. In her wake, Pam was the one who officially broke that ceiling. Later, Jenny McCarthy and Anna Nicole followed suit. The last big star to come out of Playboy, one who eclipsed Hefner from his own bed, is Holly Madison of Girls Next Door fame. In the next episode and our season finale, I will talk about her, Bridget Marcourt, the Girls Next Door, and Holly's place in the world of Playboy. Pamela has been on the cover of Playboy 14 times and essentially become the face of the brand since her first cover back in 1989. She was discovered at a football game in British Columbia, Canada, after being seen on the Jumbotron wearing a Labatt's beer shirt by the beer company. They recruited her for ad work, which then caught the eye of Playboy, who flew her out to LA for a test shot immediately. Her journey from literal girl next door to Hugh's number one girl is the stuff of legend. It also is the specific legend of Hollywood that Hugh grew up with and then wove into his own brand of star-making machismo called Playboy. Pamela's story is very much the same as Lana's discovery at the soda fountain, or the tale of countless other young girls who were plucked from obscurity and placed in the land of milk, honey, and fame, aka Hollywood, aka the American dream. The interesting and incredibly important thing about Playboy is its status as dream maker at that time in our culture. By the 1990s, MGM's star-producing days had been gone for nearly 30 years. Hugh Hefner was the one making little girls' dreams come true now. Pamela made herself a place at the top of that dream, a once-in-a-generation star no matter what factory claimed credit for her. She is the one that really made it and became the most famous woman in America on the number one show in the world, all within a few years of gracing Playboy's pages. I will talk more about Playboy, Hugh Hefner, and the end of an era on the season finale, Holly Madison's episode. For now, I will just say that even though Pamela is closely tied to the brand of Playboy, any takedown of Hugh Hefner or Playboy does not touch her. I want to be clear that she is not responsible for any of the nightmare scenarios that came out of Playboy during her time there. We have to stop expecting women to shoulder the responsibility of culture's failings or the men that exploit those failings. Speaking of wildly successful and exploitive cultural products, I would be remiss if we didn't spend some time at Will Rogers State Beach talking about Baywatch. Bouncing breasts aside, I do actually like Baywatch and think it is an incredibly important piece of television history. The show earned a Guinness Book of World Records title for most watched show worldwide in 1996 and remains one of the most successful television shows in history. It is so quintessentially American, so thoroughly Californian, that it is no wonder that blonde-haired bimbos triumph even through the exploitation attempts of male-driven mainstream television. Pamela started the show when she was 25 in 1992. She did a 5-season run but left in 1997 for other opportunities. But it doesn't go unnoticed by anyone that she left the show after the stolen sex tape came out. Could it be she was forced off the show? I genuinely don't know. Whatever propriety ceiling she had broken as a Playboy centerfold turned TV star was instantly back in place when the tape came out. She did manage to get other work, but it stifled her light and her career. The fact it didn't put either out is a testament to her brilliance. Her Baywatch character's name is CJ, a young lifeguard in Malibu, sometimes Santa Monica, that monitors the California coast with the same pride as a Navy SEAL would. The show itself is equal parts softcore porn, evening soap opera, and California pride. I don't find it that offensive from a sexism standpoint, but I do have to acknowledge that this moment in time was the height of disordered eating up to that point in American history. Pamela's image on this show prompted the largest boost in boob jobs in recorded history. Given the dangers of silicone implants, which were actually banned by the FDA in the early 1990s, this demand was a serious problem. Even post-FDA lifting the ban, silicone implants are now age-restricted. You have to be 22 or older to get them unless it's reconstructive surgery as opposed to augmentation. Pam herself had her implants removed in the early 2000s, although later she had them replaced. Whether they are saline or silicone, I can't say, and neither should anyone. To be clear, Pamela Anderson is not responsible for beauty standards, what other women do to their bodies, or any other element of cultural expectations. But it is an important element of the time period aesthetically. The look of silicone is of an era. It is very specific and very different than today's breast augmentations, and in my opinion, a historically significant fashion trend that she embodied. On Baywatch, her character, CJ, didn't have a lot of opportunities to engage in complex dialogue or in-depth storylines, but the thing that did shine through in Pamela's performance is her sense of humor. She is an excellent comedic actress. Her movements and facial expressions sell jokes that only Lucille Ball could have made work. Actually, more than Lucy, she is very Jean Harlow in Dinner at 8 in her comedic stylings. Not the rough and tumble aspects of Harlow, but the self-awareness and honesty. Her storylines may have been simple, but they did have heart, and contrary to popular belief, there are moments of women supporting women all over that show, and CJ does the bulk of it. My favorite episode of the series is what I have dubbed Eating Disorder Part 2, but is actually the Season 4 episode entitled Tentacles Part 1. The setup of Summer's bulimia happened in the previous episode, when after being forced to choose between two hot guys, she is left alone and backed into a corner. By the start of Tentacles, she is in full-on binge and purge mode, including over-exercising to accommodate excess calorie intake. For any of you out there who have dealt with any kind of eating disorder, which if you're a girl is nearly impossible to avoid, this storyline tugs at the heartstrings, regardless of the cheese factor. Summer, a young lifeguard played by Nicole Eggert, is running on the beach looking thin but exhausted. CJ, Pamela's character, pulls up alongside Summer in the LA County issue Ford yellow truck that are still used by the county today. CJ's hair is in full Pamela mode, curled and oversexed, yet beachy, all at the same time. She tells Summer to get in the truck. Summer initially refuses until she acquiesces, seeing the determination in CJ's eyes. Once in the truck, Summer says, "I do not have an eating disorder." CJ argues against Summer's squirming refusals until finally getting her to admit to a feeling of overwhelm and being under a lot of pressure from the aforementioned hot guy situation. CJ says in response, "Oh, I know all about the kind of pressure men put on women." She then goes on to say that it isn't the root cause of Summer's eating disorder. I beg to differ, but given the sex of the writers on this show, we will have to disregard their idiocy. Eating disorders are about control, power, all things men systematically steal from women, so I'm pretty sure it is about men. But, regardless of my read on the root cause of eating disorders and the origin of the motivation of this particular dialogue, this scene is real and sweet between two women that I have no doubt were struggling with body image issues while it was being filmed. Another episode I find delightful, and a great example of Pamela's comedic abilities, is a Christmas episode from Season 5 called Silent Night. There was one brief scene in this episode when she is convinced she has wooed a priest away from the cloth. Her affect in it is perfect. She comes to Mitch, David Hasselhoff's character, to discuss her concerns, but he immediately slut-shames her for tempting the man of the cross, but ultimately mellows when she explains that nothing has happened between them. There is this look in her eye in this scene that is so mischievous, but also fully aware of the femme fatale angle to the point where she plays up harlot, but with comedy. That act is the definition of bimbo, and it's hot. CJ and Baywatch played a huge role in cementing Pamela into the public imagination as the quintessential blonde bimbo. She was positively infamous by the age of 26 and still remains so today. Part of Pamela's infamy is connected to great tragedy, the theft and release of a spliced-together home video of her and then-husband Tommy Lee. I had ethical questions about discussing this tape, given that Pamela and Tommy did not want this tape out, but I ultimately decided that a film with an IMDb page is open to discussion. Even so, I do not discuss the sex scenes, which there are surprisingly few of, as a way to respect her boundaries. I will also take this episode down if she or someone from her team requests it. Pam and Tommy Lee, Hardcore and Uncensored, is a home movie, so it is all one continuous shot, except when the camera is turned off and then back on again, acting as in-camera edits. In the version I have, there are title cards added by the company that distributed the tape. The title cards are not accurate in terms of time. For example, the film starts under the heading Prenuptials. This sequence is shot in Malibu. The couple was married 4 days after meeting in Mexico. There is no footage of them together in Malibu before their wedding. That being said, the title cards are helpful for referencing scenes. They are not all inaccurate, but should be taken with a grain of salt. In the sequence entitled On the Road Leaving for Vacation, roughly halfway through the hour and 15-minute film, Pamela and Tommy Lee are in a black suburban SUV on their way to Lake Mead. The scene opens with Pamela showing off her high-heeled camping boots while Tommy starts the car. Pamela asks Tommy, "How much do you love me?" Tommy replies, "More than anything in the world." This scene sets the tone for a tragic love story in which Pamela loses everything by virtue of her appeal. At the beginning of the sequence entitled Pam's Birthday, Pamela turns away from the camera using a rose, given to her by Tommy, as a shield. The close-up shot shows her lying in bed, wearing a white nightgown in a hotel room. The white gown is only visible from the waist up. It has applique-esque lace detailing at the bust with delicate spaghetti straps. The word angelic comes to mind, especially in relation to Victoria's Secret's angels. Tommy, who is holding the camera, says, "Baby, it's your birthday. Happy birthday." She responds, "No, Tommy, no." He replies, "Come on." In the next shot of Pamela lying in bed, Tommy pretends to turn off the camera. He says, "I am watching it back." He positions himself on the ground next to the bed that Pamela is lying in. He playfully hides while still filming, now upward at Pamela. Pamela cajoles Tommy sweetly to turn the camera off. She finally says from her position in bed, "I have an ovarian cyst, Tommy." He turns off the camera. This is an example of the kind of intimacy on this tape. The weight of each no uttered by Pamela is almost too much to bear as a viewer, knowing the personal and collective cost of such scenes. The sweetness between the couple only emphasizes the injury. Their love's innocence and even boring nature would likely have existed without comment if not for Pamela's overwhelming glamour. Celebrity is, and in and of itself, a commodity, and Tommy Lee was and still is undoubtedly a rock star. But the fascination with her specifically, and the public desire to punish her and celebrate him after the fact of the tape's release is heart-wrenching. Her attempts to hide from the camera behind a rose given to her by Tommy, a literal symbol of their love, is a staggering example of how unprotected she was. Later in the birthday sequence, Pamela is being walked by Tommy blindfolded down a dock. Tommy removes Pamela's blindfold to reveal a boat, a birthday gift from him to her. Pamela holds up a white dress. It is a simple, elegant dress that is one of many gifts surrounding her on the boat she has just been given. It is clear that he adores her, and from the color and design of the dress, he also sees her as angelic. This portion of the sequence is difficult to hear because, in an ironic effort to guard against copyright infringement of the music playing in the background, the distribution company overlaid their own music on top of this and many other scenes in the film. The music they chose is aggressively upsetting and ominous sounding. It is also very loud and obscures the couple's words. The words that can be discerned are, "I love you," which is said multiple times by both Pamela and Tommy. This scene starts with another example of the mess she unknowingly walks into by virtue of the love she and Tommy share. The blindfold indicates her lack of awareness of what was to come of this time and also Tommy's unwitting role in ushering her into it. The fact that most of their speech during this innocent scene is covered by aggressively ominous music that is only there to protect the rights of others is an example of the lack of value female autonomy has in our society. She is commodified even in the privacy of her own marriage, and not just commodified, but effectively made inanimate in the process of becoming publicly traded. In the opening scene of the sequence entitled Lake Mead Day 1, Pamela swims nude in the lake. Tommy films her from the deck of the boat. He says, "Baby, I love you so much. Fuck, Pamela, you're gorgeous." Pamela films the next shot. Tommy jumps off the top of the boat into the lake fully nude. Tommy swims in circles below as we look down on him. Pamela says, "I love you so much." Tommy responds, "I love you." Later in the sequence, Pamela and Tommy are sitting on the boat deck. Tommy is driving the boat naked while smoking a cigarette, and Pamela has the camera. He says, "Fuck, I love you so much." In the next shot, Tommy films Pamela naked on the boat's edge. He says, "You look amazing. Fuck, I love you. I wish I could hold back more. Fuck, I love you." We see the boat veer towards the wall of rocks to our left, directly behind Pamela. Tommy corrects the course of the boat. Pamela films Tommy in a long shot of Tommy's naked body and says, "Look at my beautiful husband." Tommy never calls Pamela Pam. He always affords her the dignity of her full name. There is something so powerful about this small fact of their interactions. It is also worth noting that the way they film each other is really caring. Tommy was never exploitive in how he films Pamela, and her filming style is totally loving too. The looks that pass between them are more exciting than the nudity. The clarity of their feelings and the innocence of their appreciation for their naked partner's body is undeniable. You know when you see it is the legal definition of porn. This is not it. This is a great love story, albeit one that includes vaginal penetration. The next scene is one of the few that actually depicts sex. The naked swimming shot leading up to it remains one of the most iconic of the film, even though it doesn't involve the aforementioned penetration. It is unbelievable to me that Pamela's entire career and image were altered by the release of this tape, while Tommy's near-universal adulation for his large penis is the entirety of the effect on his image. The tape destroyed any illusion of control Pamela had over her image and permanently affected the laws surrounding women's rights to their own image. It helped launch an internet-based porn industry and permanently planted Pamela Anderson in the collective imagination forever. Pamela and Tommy's marriage fell apart shortly after the tape's release became mainstream media fodder. Tommy hit, or according to him, shook and kicked Pamela while she was holding their youngest son. He served 4 months out of a 9-month sentence for domestic battery. He did an interview with Catherine Cryer in 1998 in an effort to rehab his image. He was explicitly asked about the abuse. He said, "It takes two to tango. Pamela should not have been holding our son while we fought." It goes without saying that his victim-blaming bullshit went unnoticed by Catherine Cryer. But more importantly, it is another glaring example of Pamela's body being up for public debate, not to mention abuse and consumption. Pamela survived. She is working and thriving. She is a whole woman who has shaped and inspired many generations of women and raised 2 young men that I am certain will behave in ways she would approve of. She is the single most recognizable woman in the world. She made being a bimbo a powerful and successful thing to be, even though the reality of her autonomy was nearly non-existent. She took her days at Playboy and launched a successful career and life. The force of her image, personality, and beauty was commodified but still could not be totally taken from her. In short, she survived. For women like me, she also inspired and gave hope and continues to do so. Thank you, Pamela. Next time on the Season 1 finale of Window Dressing, Glamour Girl Next Door, MGM to Playboy, I talk about Holly Madison, the last star to come out of Playboy and the first one to successfully take ownership over the Playboy legacy through caring for it. She has a TV show called Playboy Murders on A&E, and she played an important part in the HBO documentary about Hugh Hefner and Playboy that came out after his death called The Secrets of Playboy. She successfully launched a Vegas show, had 2 children, wrote 2 books, and now has a rewatch podcast called Girls Next Level with the charming and wonderful Bridget Marcourt, her co-star on The Girls Next Door. Thank you for listening. Please like and follow this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and follow the Instagram page at Window Dressing Podcast for more content. I'm Madeline Jane Auble, and I will be back in 2 weeks.